My name is Julius. I was born in Brazil. I'm senior editor at Taschen today, and I work producing books from scratch, from the concept until they're done. So one of the things that I care about is this intersection about technology, culture and communication. And what I mean with that is that these are three elements that they coexist together, they interact so much that I think no one can leave outside this kind of intersection, bigger or smaller. So technology is, I think, is the third way we evolve. I think we evolve in genetic terms, so we change over time, very, very slow. We change socially because genetically we change as well. So socially we also change our behaviors, and we create new societies, and we enlarge our friendship circle, or we shrink it depending on the situation. And then there's technology, which is the third way I think we kind of evolve. And what is interesting with technology is that it reverberates into these other three things. So let's say we create now medicine. So let's say we create now antibiotics that will actually change the way we're built genetically. We create resistance towards medicine and so on. But also when we create medicine, we create a change in social behavior. So whilst before I would stay at home because I was sick, now I can go to work even being sick because I have medicine with that. So technology, has a deep effect into how we evolve genetically and we evolve as society, and these things, they play back then into technology. And I love the idea that there's this kind of circle with the center that also creates other circles of evolution. Culture, I think, I would say, is the framework in which a person navigates. And we are a consequence of culture as much we are a consequence of nature. How much it comes from nature and how much it comes from nurture, we never know, and it probably depends on a lot of things. I was hearing the other day that our memory, for example, is 30% genetics and 70% can be trained or something like that. And so culture is playing on ourselves all the time. So all the biases we have and all the decisions we make and how we look at things, our perception of reality, there's so much of, there's so many cultural aspects into it that we can't detach ourselves from it. Even if we try to be completely independent of that, there will be still something in culture that plays out or something like that. So that's the second element. And the third, I think, is communication. And the reason why I'm fascinated about education is that, we want to live in a better society. And let's say, or let's assume we want to live in a better society. And there are two ways, I think, to deal with conflict. We can use violence, or we can use conversation. We can communicate better and so on. So if we are to communicate, to make that effort, it's gonna be a negotiation between two parts, because things like morality, for example, they exist only because we live in a society. If I would be alone in the desert and there was nothing there or something like that, then morality doesn't have any necessity to exist. It wouldn't play any role. But because we live in society, there's morality, and then how you communicate that and how you want to express your fears and your angers and your happiness and all the feelings you have and all the anxiety, we share or we don't share. I think communication tools, they are like essential if we want to move forward. So if I'll take technology, culture, and communication, and I would apply it to, how we navigate in the world with social networking, with all the tools that we have created. I think that, social media is this incredible phenomenon of how you create new spaces, spaces that used to belong to a very narrow funnel. If people wanted to publish something, so on, they have been widened so much, and they have been democratized in such a way that, for some people, it means only chaos. And because, of course, our business models, they're still based on the idea that you have very few players that dominate a lot of territories. And what is interesting when we think about, decentralized engagement networks is that these networks, they have always been decentralized. People haven't taken decisions together all the time because, groups, they have affiliations by many different reasons. And it can be religion, or it can be just, the type of furniture that they use, or, and that's what you can do in social networks, is define groups so you can belong to many at the same time. I think what we're trying to do with JET8 is to generate or to improve a tool that allows people to take decisions on their own and to create new groups. So whatever they desire to have in terms of affiliation, in terms of identity, people can express themselves with those tools. So when this communication becomes so decentralized, it becomes not only more democratic, but it becomes more reliable as well, because you don't have you have less people controlling it. I think tools like JET8 allow people to think more, to think freely of what they actually want to achieve. So one of the things that I think is quite interesting to think about is that the premise of marketing in the 80s used to be, think global, act local. Because we wanted to create exactly these formulas and apply them to localities all over the world. So this is so there's a pattern that so that you would have these standards. What I think is interesting these days is that we think exactly the opposite. We think local and act global. If you are collecting pictures of white dogs without a tail, you certainly find 200 people in Germany and 300 people in Japan, and so on and so forth. And even if you put pink dots in those, there will still be 20 here and 10 there and so on. So the idea that you can get something that is very niche, but you can find people everywhere to share that thing. This is, I think, is somehow this expression of decentralized engagement networks. People want to engage with sometimes this minuscule stuff, and social networks allow you to do that if the tools that you're using allow you to take these independent decisions, and things are not just thrown into you, but that you're allowed to find them more freely. And I think that's the beauty of these new tools that are being created, including JET8. And I think that's is the next revolution.